Till March of 2020, it seemed like commercial real estate was unbeatable. While the entire real estate space was going through one turmoil after the other, right from demonetization to RERA, etc., commercial real estate was going strong. In fact, there was a shortage of real estate in commercial space. More and more companies wanted office space and rates were nice and steady. Come COVID-19 and everything has changed. Of course, it's changed for everyone and every sector, but commercial real estate seems to be more hit than its other counterparts. A recent report says about 6 million square feet of commercial real estate has been given up in the last few months. In fact, major companies have decided either not to renew their leases or are looking at alternatives. Why just talk about major companies? We do know that there are smaller companies as well who have put their expansion plans on hold. And you don't have to look very far for the reason. As more and more companies have more employees working from home. Remember, just in the IT space, there are about 90% of employees in the big 3 or 4 tech companies that are now working from home. So as work from home becomes the new normal, at least for the time being, nobody really wants to spend on that big swanky office. What does it mean for commercial real estate? Can it really survive the COVID-19 pandemic, or are we looking at some permanent damage and permanent changes to how the sector runs? I've got the best of the best to talk about it today. I'm joined by Anshuman Magazine, Chairman and CEO of CBRE. Gulam Zia, Executive Director at Knight Frank India, also joins me on the show, as does Niranjan Hiranandani, co-founder and Managing Director of the Hiranandani Group. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us today. Gulam Zia, let me come to you first. In fact, it's a Knight Frank report which talks about 6 million square feet given up in this time. Is Bengaluru the worst hit?
Yes, it is. The major part of the space that was given up, or which people are looking at leaving, has been in Bengaluru, obviously, because it's also the largest market of commercial space in India. With almost about 160 odd million square feet of area in Bangalore itself, out of some 750 that we have all over India. This is one of the biggest market of the country. So for that size, while we are talking about 3 million or thereabout, but it's still a very, very small fraction of whatever the overall size of market is. But nonetheless, the cracks are appearing.
Cracks are appearing, but how large are the cracks? Niranjan Hiranandani, are we looking at behavioral change which can be persistent? What is your take on what's happening in commercial real estate?
I have a very different view, Tamanna, from what people are thinking. And my view is very simple. If the GDP of the country is going to be -5, then you're going to lose a lot more of commercial real estate space. Because the GDP is going to be negative, overall business things are going to come down. And that is exactly what is happening at the present time. So the next 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, while the lockdown continues in parts, this will continue. Once the GDP starts coming back, if either we get a vaccine or the market again picks up in the next 1 year, you will suddenly see there's a pickup. And all those people who disappeared from the commercial markets will suddenly start wanting to come back. So this seesaw always will continue in terms of happening. My question to you as an answer would be, what do you think is going to be the GDP growth in the year 2021 and 2022? If the GDP growth, according to me, is going to be +5, 6, 7% as compared to the -5% that I see this year, certainly commercial real estate will spring back. But what you're talking about the losses which you are seeing in individual industry will continue, because these are the times where the work to home is certainly having some effect into terms of that, which is not a bad sign, because we will get greater growth in the residential state as people want bigger homes to work from. So I think the compensation.
I was just going to come to that. And you know, I quickly want to get Anshuman's view also. Mr. Hiranandani will remember a few months ago, you had told me that this is going to be great because people who are working from home are going to need bigger houses, since they need to dedicate one room for their office space. So then what happens to the companies that want to lease out office space? I'll come back to you on that, Niranjan.
A move in that direction, and I've recently done a lot of sales of people who want to upgrade their homes in the last 1 week. At least I've got 6 transactions which have taken place simply because people want to upgrade their sizes of homes.
Exactly. So you know, Mr. Hiranandani is seeing some silver lining. People want larger homes, maybe shift from a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom or 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom. Anshuman Magazine, what happens to the commercial real estate space? We had a problem of a lack of supply, but a lot more supply is expected to come on board. About 150 million square feet is supposed to be added by the calendar year 2022. Where is the demand going to be for all of this space?
First of all, you know, I'm a bit more optimistic about office space than generally what is thought. The reason for that, especially in India, I'm not talking about global markets, I think we are very lucky that our main demand does not come from the domestic economy or domestic, you know, it's not domestic demand. These are multinational companies who are offshoring, outsourcing to India. And I think that's the biggest strength for our office market. 60 to 65% of the occupiers are these companies who are offshoring their business process outsourcing. They are doing software development, design, etc., which you know. And one positive is, no doubt in the short term, it'll be difficult. No doubt that people are now looking at cost containment and, you know, given the space. But overall, the office market will bounce back because I feel because majority of our occupiers are actually American multinationals, some in Europe. And as the economy slow down, they need to offshore and outsource more to cut costs on that area. So India will get benefit of that. And because we have a proven track record of these companies who have made a big difference to balance sheets of these large multinationals in the US, and we have the talent, at a competitive cost. Thanks to rupee becoming weaker, the cost of real estate, I mean, for renting for office space, has not moved for many years. And because of that, also the bigger reason why people offshore to India, the companies offshore to India, is also talent. So the cost of talent also has not gone up significantly, thanks to the rupee being weaker, and thanks to the supply of talent. So I think in short term, no doubt demand will get impacted, but it's going to eventually come back. And also another part is this work from home certainly is happening right now. The bigger reason is really cost containment, but India has a very young population. Our workforce, large part of our workforce are millennials, and millennials will not be working out of home. You cannot attract and retain talent if they're going to work out of home. The reason why companies spend so much money on their offices in India over the last few years, you saw there were stories you must be doing that. Look at this quality space. These people are providing so many facilities. It was to attract young talent. They need to interact with each other. Otherwise, you know, there are already mental health issues happening. So work from home is here to stay for some time, but it's not a permanent feature, I feel, and people will come back to the offices.
Okay, so no, those are all good arguments, and I get the point about attracting young talent. All the beanbag and, you know, table tennis filled office spaces have had their utility. But Mr. Magazine, will you give us a sense of what is happening right now in the market? Are we seeing a lot of renegotiation of leases? Are we seeing any kind of dip or hit on rentals at all? Are you seeing certain sectors which are more vulnerable than others?
What is happening right now, of course, is the smaller businesses, because if you look at the companies which are occupying large campuses, etc., there is not too much movement because they're too large. The mid to lower category of space requirements there is churn happening. There are companies who are saying, look, we want to give up certain space and we do want to renegotiate rentals. So far, if you look at it, because these are early days, because a lot of leases are locked in, we are not seeing too much movement in rentals. But of course, if someone is occupying 4,000 square feet of space, for example, and they don't have a lock-in, they are negotiating hard, and landlords really don't have a choice but to give them concessions. But there hasn't been overall, as an average, huge movement because, again, it's early days. A lot of the leases are large and locked in. But we are seeing churn happening. Two, three things are happening. The occupiers are renegotiating their rentals. They're cutting down on space, and they're also relocating. So we are seeing companies who are, an expensive space. If they are not able to renegotiate, then they're saying, look, let's move to a cheaper location. However, and this will happen for next few months. But eventually, it is going to get more balanced as the demand starts coming back. It's also part of it is panic. Part of it also depends on how, like Mr. Hiranandani said, will the GDP come back? Nobody knows, because one school of thought is the economy is going to pick up from 21 onwards. The other, and people are talking of WV recoveries. Others saying it's going to continue to be doom and gloom. So really, nobody can forecast what's going to happen as far as the economy is concerned and the demand coming back. But generally speaking, I would say.
No, I think, yeah.
Sorry, good.
I think two areas where it's really difficult to hazard a guess right now is when will we get a vaccine and when will the economy pick up, and in a way those questions are also interlinked. But I want to understand a bit more about the work from home phenomenon, and Gulam Zia, I'd like you to come in here. So again, there are two schools of thought. One is that work from home is a very limited, transient kind of situation, but on the other hand, several companies are also realizing that it saves them quite a bit of money, that there is a different system to sort of get their businesses to run, that the gig economy in that sense, where you have employees and their location doesn't matter, works for some kind of businesses. Do you see this having an impact on commercial real estate and also on co-working spaces? We haven't had much conversation on that, but there's nearly 7 million square feet of co-working space in this country. What happens there?
Well, first of all, the concept of work from home and the conception that it will save cost to you itself is not proven beyond doubt. We have done a very huge survey, and we've realized, and these are listed, especially IT players, all their all the records are available out there. And when we did all their costs related to real estate, we realized that if they're shifting 50% of their people working from home, the top line cost, the saving in the top line perspective is not even 0.5 to 1%. And then on the other side, the losses or the fears or the risks that you're running by way of going for work from home, not just from the software and hardware for the people who are working from home, but also the whole aspect of the risk itself. The business risk, because a lot of these, especially technology businesses, are extremely, extremely confidential and private. And if you're allowing thousands of such people to work from their homes, how will you safeguard your confidentiality perspective? So there are a lot of those aspects, again, which a 0.5 to 1% of saving that you do on your top line doesn't really matter much. So that is the first thing which I want to put on the table, that while a lot of us are talking about work from home and the savings coming out of that, that itself is a misnomer, it's a misconception. If you're going deeper into the cost savings, etc., you'll realize that it is not much. So there comes a question, then if work from home is established today, whether it will continue for next couple of years, and as Mr. Magazine was talking about, obviously nobody knows what goes beyond. But even when you look at the Americas post-GFC, the work from home had come in as a concept. In India, we are talking about it today. But it is globally, at least in Americas, etc., they are aware of it. So even here, we may have a certain fraction of the workforce working from home. But shall it have an impact on the overall real estate and especially commercial real estate market? I seriously doubt about that. We are obviously not looking at suddenly the whole work of the office complex is going 50% vacant and we will have haunted houses. Definitely not. This is a concept which we are still understanding.
Clearly not. The question is, yeah. the question is how long for recovery, because there's been a sort of mismatch of the cycle. There was a shortage of supply, by the beginning of 2020. A lot of supply is coming into the market, and then coronavirus has hit. Niranjan Hiranandani, I just want to get your sense on where you see this tide moving. You've said earlier that the recovery will be linked to the GDP recovery, but even then, if companies have discovered a relatively lower cost structure, employees have discovered various options, do you think that even if people will have offices, they will have that much space allotted to each employee? Social distancing and large spaces between desks and seatings will be here to stay for some time.
See, my personal view, if you want to get a guesstimate, obviously there are no estimates, because till you don't get a vaccine, you're not going to get a estimate. So I think I'm putting a guesstimate on the market. My gut feel is by March 2021, the market will turn around, irrespective of the fact whether you get a vaccine or not. For the simple reason, by that time, 55% of the population in the urban areas which we are talking about will have been infected and have gone through the process of doing this. So I think by March of 2021, you will see the turn happening, where the market economy will start going up again, and the US election would be over, the new president will be there, the policies will have stabilized, and whatever is necessary to do in terms of international best practices will be put in place. Now, to answer the second part of your question, that is basically that what about social distancing and others? In fact, you will need much more space than what the present IT companies pack people like sardines. So this is going to change completely, because you're going to see that even though 20-25% people will work from home, and that's the maximum estimate that I'm taking about in terms of any specific industry, you will still need more space for the balanced people who will work from the office. And the third part of it, I think co-working is here to stay. It's a question of an attitude more than a thought process in it. There will be some businesses which are very comfortable with co-working spaces, don't want to do long-term commitments in terms of space. Not the IT companies for certain, but other types of companies which may be service-oriented companies would like to do it because they would need more space, less space and all. So I think what I predict, I believe, that March 2021 will be a turning point in terms of commercial real estate springing back to action. And you will get that by the time our economy will done. Again, it's a guesstimate, not a real estimate. But let's presume the vaccine comes in November. Let's talk about that.
Yes.
January 2021, you will see a spurt of demand, which will make the whole thing look quite different. So you give me the date of the vaccine and I'll add 3 months and I will show you the commercial real estate springing back. So, I mean, unfortunately, you don't have any vaccine producer.
I will not wait there. I will not wade into that. No, I will not wade into that controversy because there's so many questions. A date of the vaccine, efficacy of the vaccine, enough field trials and clinical trials. What comes first, herd immunity or the vaccine? So let's not go there. That's a completely different, topic of discussion. But Anshuman Magazine, I want to just, get your take on the co-working space.
I agree with you entirely that if the vaccine doesn't come, then by March of 2021, the herd immunity will have come in. And if that is the case, then anyway, the economy will spring back.
Sorry, if you can ask the question, I didn't.
It'll be great for everyone except those who invested in the vaccines. But yes, Anshuman Magazine, I was asking you about co-working spaces. And do you see a change in the way companies will look at their workspaces as well? The need for social distancing, or at least physical distancing, the need for maybe larger amenities for those who come into office. Do you think that those are some of the changes which are here to stay over the next few years?
Certainly. I think, first of all, there will be change in design in office spaces. They will be, because there is paranoia, so you will see, more spaces, distancing, etc. will happen. But I also feel humans have short memories. So whilst, and end of the day, it's a cycle. So whilst this, it depends on the vaccine, etc. And maybe for next couple of years that there will be paranoia. They no doubt every office would have to have those basic minimum requirements of distancing, cleaning, sanitation, air, whatever. But in the longer term, if this thing dies down, I think people will again start thinking of cost. But certainly in the short to medium term, the offices will not look the same, what we are used to pre-COVID. There's no doubt. But it does come with more cost, not only cost of space, but also cost of getting cleaning done. What we are, for example, doing in our offices 4 to 5 times a day. You have to do temperature checks. You can't utilize meeting rooms as a group, and so many other things. Masks, and even contact free.
Yes.
Going into the restrooms, etc. So that's here to stay for some time. But my gut feel is that eventually, after a couple of years, when the panic or the paranoia goes away, we will be back to being a normal office spaces, just how humans are. As far as co-working is concerned, it is definitely here to stay. Reason is the flexibility co-working provides, is important, especially in these times where capital is scarce. And more than that, people are not willing to take a risk of investing, right? So co-working provides you that flexibility that you can go in, because if you're taking a normal lease, you have to give a lock-in, you have to put
in fact it might get a fillip. Yes.
Yeah. So it would be that they
absolutely it might in fact get a fillip because of the current situation. I'm going to have to end this excellent discussion. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. And I just want to end with a takeaway of what Anshuman Magazine said, that human beings will move on. We will forget what happens. Hopefully, we will not forget the hygiene habits we've picked up, because that's important. But we will move on, and we will look forward to a brighter future across the board, not just in commercial real estate. Thank you so much for joining us on the discussion this evening.